welcome to Sex is the Podcast, brought to you by DC Health Sex Is. A little bit about me. I'm your girl, Poet Taylor. If the voice sounds familiar, I appreciate waking you up, DMV, with the Joe Claire Morning Show on PGC. Now let's get into this right here. First, do you know about the Sex Is campaign? In case you didn't, let's talk about that a little bit. Sex Is DC is a campaign by DC Health that encourages open, honest, and judgment-free conversations about sex and sexual health among youth and between trusted adults. Now, this campaign was created to share accurate information and resources about sex and sexual health with DC youth. We want to provide a safe space to discuss sex and sexual health. Now that we got that covered, I want you to know this right here. This is history in the making. It's the first of a series of podcasts from Sex Is that we'll release every few weeks. Now, these podcasts are going to be a way for us to listen to what DC youth have to say about various sexual health topics, and also share some of the resources that DC Health and our partners around the city have available. Because when we know better, we do better, we move better. But first, how about I introduce you to the dopest panel you will ever meet? So without further ado, I'm going to kick it to Genesis because you are just a halo of light. Please introduce yourself to the village.
Hey y'all, it's Genesis. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a rap MC for the Young Women's Project. We advocate for safe sex among youth, and we pass out condoms and other resources to them. And I also live in Ward 7. And I'm going to pass it to Sion.
Hello, y'all. My name is Sion. My pronouns are also he, him, his. I'm also rap MC for YWP, and I am from Ward 8. And I'm going to pass it to Jane.
Hey, y'all. My name is Jane, and I'm a youth health worker with Sex Is. And my pronouns are she and her, and I live in the Ward 5 district. And I'm going to pass it to Crystal.
How y'all doing? My name is Crystal Cobbs. I'm also part of Sex Is, and I work with Department of Health with the campaign. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm going to pass it to Danae.
Hey guys, my name is Danae, and I'm a Youth Advisory Board member for the Sex Is campaign. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I live in the Ward 7 area. I'm going to pass it to Mia.
Hi, my name is Mia. I go by she, her. I also work for the Youth Advisory Board for Sex Is in the Department of Health, and I live in Ward 4.
I am so happy to have all of you joining us today. So let's get started. Today's topic revolves all around sex and communication. Now, we want this to be a free-flowing conversation that both our panel and members of the audience can learn from. And remember, here in this village, we respect each other's opinions, and we don't yuck anyone's yums. Communication, let's talk about it, is a big part of your overall wellness. No matter what the relationship, no matter who we're talking about, the idea and the ability to communicate effectively changes things. Now, when we're talking communication in your sexual health, honey, strap in because this one is going to be a good one. And I'll tell you why. Communication is needed to share information, to ask your partner for consent, to talk about condoms and birth control, to talk about what position is your favorite. Because of COVID, we've been forced into talking to each other virtually. So today, we want to talk about how you all talk to your peers or your families about sex and some of the challenges that you face when it comes to communication. Matter of fact, let's just start there. Since you've been in COVID, in quarantine, what have been the challenges that you've had to get over, go through, around, understand when it came to communicating?
So before COVID, I would, see my friends in person like anybody else. But, since I was stuck in the house, I couldn't really see them as much, and I'm not really that much of a texter. So most of my days were spent, lonely.
Lonely?
Yes. But I was a part of group chats and stuff. I would participate in those, but reaching out to any individual people was kind of a hassle for me.
Okay. Anybody else want to chime in about just the general challenges that you faced during COVID, quarantining?
I'm going to piggyback on what Sion said. I used to see my friends all the time, and I have a very close-knit friend group. It's literally 5 of us. We do everything together. And I am big on texting, but some of them aren't. And so we would literally schedule FaceTime dates or group FaceTime dates, and we would get on. and talk about how things were. A lot of us, we're all going to different colleges, so we talk about college plans, just boys, everything. We just talk about life.
All right, so now that we've talked about the general conversation, let's talk sexual conversation. For those who are comfortable with a bae, a boo, a partner, a hey, or what up, big head, depending on what your situation is. How has COVID affected those kind of conversations? How were we able to find a little intimacy, especially for those of us who are COVIDing with a family or roommates? How did we find privacy? Mia, you look like you got something to say.
So just like for general, like I think that for like me and my friends before we like I go into other part, I think that me and my friends, I'm not a big texter either. So I've been like writing letters to people, even though we all kind of live in DC. It's kind of more fun because we're not really big on texting and FaceTime. I think that more intimately, I think that I'm not a texter at all. So it has been a struggle for me because I don't really I'm not used to texting people and like getting to know people in that aspect of it. And also like just virtually everything is kind of weird for me. So I think that's been like a really big issue for it. I've kind of like gotten used to it because I have to, because I can't really leave my house. But I think that, I don't know, I feel like writing letters sometimes can be more intimate because, you're not getting it right away. You're like, writing what you feel, and you don't feel the pressure of like, what are they going to say back like 5 minutes later? You're not like throwing your phone. So I feel like it's more like intimate, and I feel like comfortable doing that.
Mia, what was the response from those that you sent letters to? Did y'all unpack some things? Did you explore some things? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. So at least for my friends, I think that like writing letters was kind of like more like a friend thing. We talked about experiences we had, like the future, things like that, or just been like, hey, what's up? But then I think that when you're talking about like more intimately, I think that it was more so just like expressing your feelings for like more close like relationships, and not really just like it wasn't really scary for me because I feel like with texting, I get like really nervous of what they're going to say, like what they're doing and responding back. But with letters, especially now, you never know when you're going to get them. It's like a surprise. So like you never know what they're going to say back. So I think that, sometimes you would share things that were kind of more intimate, but then you also just be like just talking regularly like you would say over text.
For the whole panel, was there any anxiety or fear of sharing something very intimate, maybe a sex, maybe a video, maybe a snap, that could one day come back to be used against you or leaked? Did we have any of those conversations? Should we be having those conversations?
So I'm really happy you brought that up because I didn't think about it, but during the beginning part of the quarantine, I was still a little booed up, and I was never really the type to send those type of things, but they were requested and I was open to the idea of it. And it was very difficult for me because I plan on becoming a dermatologist, and it's very difficult to secure a residency after grad school. And I just didn't want anything that could possibly, because they will literally, if you were suspended from high school once, it could stop your chance of becoming a dermatologist. So I was very afraid that something could happen. And I just had to communicate with my partner, I am trusting you. Please do not give me a reason to not trust you. So there was definitely a talk, and things worked out well.
Since you were cool with being so transparent, Genesis, can I ask, how did your partner receive that information? And could you give tips to anyone who's considering sending a little ooh la la to bae? Conversational starters. I think it's important to talk about because that is a part of how we are relationshiping right now.
Mm-hmm. He pretty much understood, especially once I explained my reasoning to him. We had already been together for a while, and we had a pretty good foundation of trust. He knows my boundaries, and he found out that was a new boundary of mine, and we worked our way through it. For the most part, I just let him know, babe, I'm not, you know me, I'm not the type to like, look, we have our fun, but I'm not the type to just be sending flicks every once in a while. That's not me. So when I do this, please cherish it.
I appreciate you. That actually gives us a great segue into my next question. How do you discuss sex with your friends? And are there benefits to discussing sex with your friends to be safe when it comes to sex with your friends? Who wants to hop in on this? Because I am taking notes.
I can start.
Okay.
So for me, my friends are very comfortable talking to me with sex, about sex, all the things about sex, because of my affiliation what sex is. And, you know, it's very beneficial for me and them because I learn new things about, like, different conflicts they have when pertaining to sex, like how this person did such and such or how they had a conversation with them. So I learned different ways that I can help other people communicate about sex. And also I help them because I make sure my friends are always safe when they are having sex, because sex is all about, well, sex is the campaign and sex is all about, you know, being safe and being positive. So I make sure they're safe. I make sure they have access to condoms because I'm also a rap MC. I make sure they know all the different clinics to get free Plan Bs and free birth controls and everything. So talking about sex with my friends is very, very beneficial.
Have any of you ever had any of your friends come to you with a problematic or an unsafe scenario that they experienced when either engaging or striking up a conversation about sex? And if so, what was that conversation like? And what were the words that you left with them?
I had a friend once who she ran into a problem where she had unprotected sex because, like, the moment was going too fast, and the person that she did it with, like, they was just moving too fast, and it all happened. Then she came to me and my friend. We're both rap MCs, and we were just telling her that, like, she still had options, like number one, Plan B, and stuff like that. And we were just telling her that, like, even though that happened, like, she was feeling bad about herself. So, like, we were trying to, like, make her feel better. Like, even though that happened, that's just a mistake. And, like, you know now that you have other options to where you don't really have to, like, worry about. But, like, I'm just trying to say, like, we were just trying to let her know that it's like unprotected sex is a big deal, but you do have, like, options. Like, you have ways around it. That's what I'm trying to say.
You said it perfectly. Thank you for sharing. Before we get into our next question, you mentioned that you are a rap MC. For those who may have never heard the term, they want to know more. Can one of my rap all-stars just give a little tidbit of information as to who you are, what you do, and how you bless the village?
Well, a rap MC, basically, you had to take a test about, like, sexual health and stuff like that so that you could be able to pass out condoms to youth and basically anybody who needs it.
Okay. And Danae, you look like you was about to chime in and tell us a little something.
It was about it. It's only like one process. You, like Jane said, it's like an exam online, and then, you know, you get your certificate, and then, you know, after that they give you a bag of condoms, and they allow you to go into schools that are comfortable with it, because, you know, there are some conservative schools that allow you to go in and pass out condoms to your peers.
Okay. So a little birdie told me that rap is actually slang for something. Can somebody put me D so I know what I'm saying when I'm out here in these streets?
The rap MC stands for condoms, you know, because you wrap it up, and the MC stands for massive condoms, and you can become a rap MC by going to sexisdc.org.
Nice. Thank you. Which takes us to our next level of conversation. How do you talk to your partner about sex? Is there a better time than another or a better space than another to have the conversation?
So I'll go. Normally when I start talking to somebody that I'm interested in, I let them know, like, in advance, like, hey, I'm not sexually active, so if that's your aim, then, you know, leave. And normally they don't. So, I mean, that's always a good sign, but then they show themselves later on down the line. That's another topic. But so with my current boyfriend, like, he was actually like, okay, so he was like, that's fine. Like, I'm ready when you are. Like, I'll never pressure you. And yeah, I haven't felt the pressure of, you know, anything. I'm open to, you know, other things. And I always, you know, let them know that. So it's really good to actually, like, be talking to someone who's, like, comfortable with me being comfortable at the same time. It's like put me first. So we always bring it up in the beginning before it gets too serious and any feelings are involved.
And although this may sound like a why question, Poe, what you talking about? Is there a neutral location to have a conversation about sex? I know that I've had conversations with folks that were like, we were in the throes of the passion, and then it became kind of awkward to just be like, hey, X, Y, and Z. So is this something that maybe we talk about over dinner? Is it a, can you FaceTime me? Can I talk to you about it? Well, technically with COVID, you would be FaceTiming, but is there a right, wrong place to have the conversation?
I agree with what Danae said about doing it in the beginning, because I feel like when you're in the heat of the moment and like you already there, sometimes it's hard to like, you know, address your boundaries and say everything you're not comfortable with because you're already there. But I feel like if you talk about like what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with your partner in the beginning, it's very clear. So when you ever do get to that point, it's like, okay, they're not doing this, so we're not gonna do that and stuff like that.
Okay. Now let me throw. Yes.
Okay, one more thing though. Before, even though that some people may think that when you're in the moment you can't change your mind, you can. And I don't want people to think that they can't express how they feel in the moment. It just may seem inconvenient, but at the end of the day, it is your body, so you have every choice. And that's a whole nother level of communication. You have every choice to change your mind and be like, hey, I don't want to do this. Maybe we should have a conversation. Even though it may be awkward, it's still, you know, it's ideal, you know, it can happen.
Don't be trying to read my mind, because that was another question for me. What happens if I am in a situation and I feel like I want to rethink some things or I want to communicate some things? So even if I feel like we are on the cusp of, I can still stop and say what I need to say, what I need to express. That is a really good thing to know. So now that we have talked about talking to our partners, can we talk about bringing up the topic of sex to parents, guardians, adults, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful? Would anybody care to share the moment they went to an adult to maybe talk about sex? What was their response? Was it a positive or negative one for you? Is there something that those of the adult community could learn from in this moment?
Well, if nobody wants to go, I have a story about that. I was a little younger, maybe 16, and I approached my mom. We've always been close, extremely close. I lost my father young, so my mom's my best friend. I approached her. I didn't want to come out and say, hey, mom, I'm thinking about sex, because oftentimes being that forward doesn't go well. So I just wanted to gauge and see how she thought about teens being sexually active. I let her know about a few of my friends who were having sex, and immediately her reaction was nowhere near positive, not even neutral, just, I do not agree with that. And it caused me to simply not say anything. Once I did have sex, she didn't know. I found out things on my own. I asked questions from others because I didn't feel comfortable asking my mom. Now we're close, and now she's more progressive. We're able to have those conversations, but it took a while. I'm 18 now, so it's been 2 years.
Genesis, if you could tell a parent anything or a trusted adult anything, as, hey, just word to the wise, should someone trust you with this conversation, are there questions that you would have preferred your mom ask? Was there a response that would have been more receptive to you, that would have made you feel like you could open up more?
Because she didn't have to be completely okay with me having sex. You're allowed to have your own opinions. We are two different people, but I should be able to come to you, even if you don't fully agree with the choices that I'm making, to say, hey, I need this advice, or hey, help me out, because I don't know how this works. I feel like you should be able to at least be slightly open to the possibility that your child, though they're pure and they may seem extremely innocent to you, they are growing up and they are experiencing changes in feelings that they want to talk to you about.
See, you're the perfect breeze to my day, because it brings me right to, for anyone who's like, I still think I need some extra help, not a problem. I keep telling y'all, sexisdc.org has everything that you need, included a trusted adult discussion guide, just for situations like this. Just so when that conversation happens, you feel very confident in that first step of responding, because it seems like, Genesis, that meant something. The difference between let me listen more to learn and understand versus let me listen to tell you something back. Mm-hmm. Am I getting that vibe correct?
Yes.
All right. I appreciate you being so transparent. Keep telling y'all today we changing lives. For others that have had the conversations with their trusted adults, let's talk about some positives. What are the positives you found in having a trusted adult that you can come and lay it all out? Whether it's a conversation about condoms and lube or a conversation about positions or having the conversation, period. What are the positives that you found from having a trusted adult around?
For me, like, I can agree with Genesis. Like, when I first tried to bring up that topic with my mother, she just shut down, like, ASAP. So I just recently discovered that I can talk to my sister. And mind you, I learned everything from Sex Is. Everything I know about sex and being safe, I learned from Sex Is. But it's nice not having just the only know I have me to talk to with my sister, because, you know, she's closer to my age. She's like 23. And, you know, the positives of having a trusted adult, you can have somebody to talk to, even though you feel like it's too much for you. You can have someone to go to when you need this. You can have someone to go with you to get birth control. It's a lot of positives to having a trusted adult. And, like, being a trusted adult, some people don't understand that it's so important as a trusted adult to be a trusted adult to somebody. Like, you sitting there with an open ear for somebody is just like a blessing in disguise, really, because you don't understand how much that person been holding in about sex or anything they trust you with. So, yeah.
I appreciate it. Mia?
I was just going to say, for me, I think my sister and my mom are like my trusted adults. And I think that when I was first like kind of nervous to talk to my mom about certain things, because she's in healthcare. So I wanted to like, you know, ask her certain questions about my body and like just certain questions on how to make sure I'm staying safe. And I remembered I would always say like, my friend said this, my friend wanted me to ask you this. And I would always say my friend. And I think that she kind of caught on that like I was having these questions. And so then she kind of sat me down and had the discussion. She was like, if you need to like ask me questions about staying safe, then like just let me know. She was like, I'd rather you like are staying safe and you like don't know what you're doing at all. So I think that was like one of the biggest things, because I was like really scared to talk to her about it. But once I actually did and she came to me and confronted me, I was like more happy. And I'm able to like now we're at a point where like I don't come to her about everything, but like if I have any like health questions or just like need advice on things, she's always there for me. So it's a really good positive.
Shout out to all the trusted adults in the village. When we talk communication, given COVID, how are we having conversations about people that we not necessarily are being intimate with, just close with, about COVID testing? And then for those we're intimate with, about getting tested, period.
So I actually got tested today, and it actually was not that as people were making it seem. They did not go that far in my nose. That's one. I encourage everyone to get tested. Anyways, normally when people are like, they text me like, hey, let's link. And I'm just like, wait, like, have you been tested? Because I need a negative test result in order to go back to campus. And I want to leave. So I would like to get that. And now since I've been tested, I'm definitely open to hanging out. But beforehand, I was like, I'm not leaving the house. Like, you know, catch me afterwards. But now I'm just like, have you been tested? Have you been around anyone? Like, and I have open-minded friends. So them, you know, being honest and they're like, no, I haven't been tested. I'm just like, well, you know, I'll see you when I see you. Because like, no, I'm not taking the chance. And if you're not, you know, open to taking the test, then I don't think, you know, we should be hanging out at this time. So I feel like the best way to have that conversation is definitely honestly, like go into it like, hey, this is what I did. This is what I would like. Let me know how you're feeling about it. And, you know, we can go from there. So I feel like it's definitely been an easy conversation for me because most of my friends go to school with me and want to go back to school too. So they're getting their tests done as well. So I'll definitely be able to see them in the future on campus. But yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Has anyone ever tried to have a conversation with someone about getting tested, whether it was for COVID so we could hang out, or testing because maybe you didn't want to necessarily wrap it or whatever your situation may be? Has anyone experienced a conversation where you said, let's get tested, let's do these things, and you met some opposition? And if so, what was the next step for you or that situation?
I'm gonna just jump in. That is hilarious. So I experienced that exact situation last year, around the middle of last year, summertime of last year, so exactly a year ago. And I let my partner know at the time, I had already been getting tested because I was with the Young Women's Project. Sometimes they literally send you home with an assignment to get tested so that you can mark down your experience so that you can recommend that clinic. So I had already been getting tested regularly every 3 months. It was common to me. And I told my partner at the time, can we get tested together? We had not been sexually active. We hadn't had sex yet. So it wasn't me necessarily like, oh, I want to know if you're clean beforehand. You didn't even have to share your results. I just wanted to get tested with you. And immediate opposition, like to the point where, what, do you have something? Like slightly aggressive. So at that point, I didn't really know how to explain to them, listen, I'm not saying that you have anything. I genuinely just want this to be something that we do together. They weren't really understanding of that, and I had to cut ties. I feel like when you let people know your boundaries and they don't respect them and they're not even open to compromise, you kind of have to remove yourself from that situation.
So when you made the decision to remove yourself from the conversation, did that person come around? Or had you already made up your mind that this was not something that you wanted to be a part of?
I had already kind of made up my mind, but they did come around after I had already made up my mind. Like, okay, I'm okay with it now. But it's like, it's a little too late, babes. I didn't already went and got my results. It's done. I'm sorry now.
I'm happy that you stood your ground. And I think that's the perfect time for those who may not be aware that getcheckdc.org will allow you to do an HIV test at home. I'm talking it coming to your house, unmarked, very discreet packaging, so you know your status. I'm always say when we know better, we do better, hopefully, and we move better. So thank you, Genesis, for giving me a way to make sure that people are out here knowing exactly who they are, how they are, before they are someone with someone else. What's your best piece of advice when it comes to talking about sex to either your friends, your partner, or your trusted adult?
I was going to say, don't be judgmental, because like when you show aggression or any type of judgment towards someone that's coming to you with any concerns, it's going to break that trust that you have with them, and that's going to make them not trust you, and they're not going to come to you, and it might change your relationship in the future. So yeah, show sensitivity when they come to you.
I like it. Mia, what would be your best piece of advice when it comes to talking about communicating sex with your friends, partners, or a trusted adult?
I would say, at least for me, I realize that a lot of people are going through what I'm going through too. Like everyone's felt my feeling, and everyone's have had this question at a certain point in their life. So when I'm going to like my trusted adults, like my mom and my sister, I know that like I don't feel bad because I know that they probably been in the same point. And so realizing that makes it more comfortable to know that you're not the only one doing it. And so just remembering that when you're talking to people and having conversations with your friends, there's like a million people going through the same exact thing. And so like making a community and just like being helpful, like makes me more comfortable, and also kind of makes like, it just takes a stigma away from so many different things that like we talk about.
I love that. Crystal, I would love for you to weigh in.
Would be just be open-minded, because you never know how someone's going to respond. You don't know how other people take things. So we are personally about sex. Be very worried that you might not get the response that you want. And if somebody is coming to you talking about sex, just be, like I said, open-minded. Try not to be judgmental, because people, you don't know what somebody going through or how your judgment might make them feel.
Thank you. Jane, you look like you were ready to take the mic off mute and bless the people.
I would just say, as far as like your trusted adult, I would make sure you find a real trusted adult, because somebody that you might think might be a trusted adult for like something else, not necessarily sex, because sex can be a sensitive topic to certain people. So I would do that first. Then when you find who you want to communicate with, I would just be honest and clear, so you get like real answers, not sugar-coated answers. Like just be honest and clear about questions that you had.
I appreciate that. Genesis, I see you nodding. So that tells me you ready.
Yeah, so I would just say, like Crystal said, I think, try to be unbiased. Like if somebody's coming to you with a question, you're allowed to, of course, share your advice and even share your experiences if you feel comfortable doing that. But try to, if they don't go your route, try to still be accepting and understanding that they took your advice into account, but they don't necessarily have to do exactly what you say. Don't pass judgment because their life isn't your life.
I hope y'all are catching all these gems and all these words. And I'm getting this final word of advice of how to talk sex to whomever. You already know I'm coming to you, babe. Danae, what you got for me?
Okay, so my best piece of advice will go to parents. Honestly, I feel like parents need to allow their children to grow up. Like Genesis said earlier, most parents, like, they look at their child like, they're always going to be pure, and everybody's going to experience something at one time. So I feel like parents should allow their children space to actually make mistakes and make their own decisions in their lifetime without feeling judged or miscommunicated. So like I said, I think parents should always allow themselves room to basically see their child and grow up and mature.
Man, listen, I done took notes. I done learned something. If you need me as a trusted adult, I'm here. You've just met a panelist full of just dopeness. And as much as it pains me to say this part, this wraps up our first podcast. Round of applause. Look at what y'all did. Yes. Thank you so much, Village, for joining us. If you want information, because I know you do, because it tickles your fancy, visit the website, sexisdc.org, and follow them on every social media platform you're on. I am talking Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, @sexisdc. Panelists, I got to give it up to you one more time because you are phenomenally dope. Thank you for being so transparent, for being so honest, and planting these seeds so that sex and communication for someone who popped through today is not so hard when they take the next step. So Genesis, Jane, Crystal, Sion, Mia, Danae, I appreciate you. I love you. Shout out to the Department of Health and this Sex is DC campaign, because where would we be without it? And we'll see you again next time. And you don't want to miss next time, because we are talking sex and consent. Have your questions ready, because we're going to be ready to talk and give you some answers. Thank y'all again for joining us. And for those in the village that may need things to wrap it before they tap it, did you know if you're a DC resident, you can get free condoms and lube sent to your home? All you got to do is go to sexisdc.org/free condoms, fill out the form, and pow, right at your doorstep.